Welcome back. You tuned into Inspired Afternoons with me, your host, Mariam Mia. And now it's time for one of my favorite segments, the hashtag kindness and compassion segment. And today we'll be featuring an NPO that actually, for me, they represent an epitome of what kindness and compassion should be. So, kindness and compassion personified is a caring women's forum because that's basically what they do. They extend kindness and compassion to whoever reaches out to them. And I'm so pleased today. I have joining me uh, in the flesh live. I have Sister Zaheera Bham. And Sister Zaheera Bham is what, when I think of a humanitarian, true humanitarian, Sister Zaheera comes to mind. Sister Zaheera has been acknowledged. Her work speaks for herself in through the accolades and acknowledgements that she received. Just recently, she's been a recipient for the News 24 Everyday Hero, which Alhamdulillah, I concur with this acknowledgement because you are through Hero 24/7, you're available there for the community. She's also a recipient of the Gold Winner Outstanding Individual Leadership Award. And also, she shows us, leaderships are somebody who display that quality of kindness and compassion, not somebody who rules the roost, but a human quality is what we need of our leaderships. She's also she works with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee on the Women's Business Network, a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. As Sister Zaheera, by profession, is a speech and hearing therapist, and also there she assists and is one of the board members of the Islamic Holistic School for Alternative Needs, serving there. And yes, many of you see her as a public, and I've met her in a capacity as a public and motivational speaker. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be connecting with you once again, Sister Zaheera Bham, who is the advisory chairperson of the Caring Women's Forum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Shukran so much for having me again. I call Miriam Mia very lovingly Mu'allima because my children were in her school, they were raised by her, and she's had a huge impact on our lives. So Mu'allima, Jazakallah to you. Shukran for the introduction. I think, when we see those accolades, it's really a representation of one person, but really more a representation of who we are because of the people around us. And I'm very blessed to be surrounded by amazing, amazing women and people who really give a lot of themselves that make those accolades possible.
So 25-year anniversary of Caring Women's Forum. So for me, one of the longest standing organizations, Alhamdulillah, inshallah, Allah continue to grant the organization longevity to continue to serve all of humanity, Alhamdulillah. So tell us about, let's go back. I am somebody who loves the past in terms of the history because I feel it's the history and the stalwarts who found such organizations that our guidance to carry on. And it's now our time to, as they've left that legacy for us, it's now our time to leave a legacy for the new generation. So tell me a little bit more about the Caring Women's Forum and when did it all start and who were one of the founder members of the organization?
You hit the nail on the head by saying that, the history is the foundation of who we are and where we end up being and what we want to hand over to the next generation. We started off in 1995. The founding member, Mrs. Zainab Tayyab, is still a part of CWF. All our meetings still happen from our home. If we ever slack or we get slow with work, she puts a message on the WhatsApp chat telling us that we need to jack up what we need to do, how we need to do it. And I think, we can never take away the wisdom of our elderly, the women around us who've been through so much. We impart so much of wisdom to us. And the things that we may think we know, an elderly person has always been through a lot more to be able to understand where the pitfalls will come in, where the difficulties may come in, and they preempt a lot of that. So that makes it a lot easier. The organization, like I mentioned, started in 1995. It started off, funny enough, because the Greek women in the Houghton community wanted to know a little bit more about Islam. They then contacted Mrs. Zainab Tayyab and asked her to tell them a little bit more about it, to show them what a mosque looks like, and they could have an understanding of it. Subsequent to that, she had arranged this for these ladies, and they said to her, why don't you consider doing the very same thing within your community? It also allows for a networking of women. And what had happened is a lot of women, Muslim families were moving into the Houghton area during that time. And Ms. Zainab Tayyab thought it would be the perfect time to actually start getting ladies connected to each other so that they would start feeling a sense of community as well, as many of us grew up in communities that were so connected. And alhamdulillah, that's how it started. Or obviously, as the years go by, membership fluctuates and goes forward. But we've had some of the most dynamic women that have been in the founding phases of CWF, and you'll understand this when you understand that there are women like Safia Musa, who now runs Spiritual Courts. There was Dr. Shada Umar, who is the head of Teddy Bear Clinic, Mrs. Farina Moti. There are people who were the late Farida Token, Razia Mayat. There were people who were instrumental in forming the foundation of CWF. And these are women who are still doing so much within their communities, so much of giving back, that they set a legacy for us. And really, it started off with one hamper and one bursary, and they started growing from there. And it's been an organization that is always, like you said, been built on a principle of care, love, and compassion across all races, across all religious boundaries, although we are steeped in binding ourselves and our moral ethics by an Islamic value system.
And Sister Zahira, what I like in terms of the outlook in that Caring Women's Forum, and the other day I heard you on air as well with Kari Zayat Patel on your World Humanitarian Day, and you said something which I know you're a great advocate is all the while in giving, we should be cognizant of the dignity of the recipient and respect the dignity of that. And for me, that's so fundamental because you know what? Often we go to this we go to an impoverished area and we start snapping away and we come out there, oh, you know what? We feel like we've empowered somebody, or maybe our small hamper has now made a big thing, and we make it all about ourselves without even starting to think, imagine how this person's feeling. Because for you to be in that circumstance where you have to now take and ask somebody for that help, it affects your dignity as a human being. And these givings have to be discreet instead of making fanfare. And I know you very this is something you advocate and feel strongly about. Can we just discuss that for a moment?
Absolutely. It's something I'm so vocal about and something I do strongly about, because I'm not saying we've always had it right. We've all learned along the way. We've all made mistakes along the way. But as we get older, and again, if we listen to the people around us and we take wisdom from the elderly around us, we'll realize the pitfalls in the manners in which we're doing things. Yes, for organizations, even the 1 cent that you are collecting, there has to be hisab kitab. You have to show your donors transparency. You have to show them where their money is going. We have to make sure that it's completely audited on a yearly basis. Financials are available for everyone to see, because we're very cognizant of the fact that we are accountable for every cent, whether it's non-visible entities. Yes, it's a place there. And many of our donors do want to see the projects that their money is going to, but we try and make very certain we take it off the hampers, or of us, or of our volunteers, or of the place that we are working at, but very seldom of the individuals unless they want their picture taken. And this I'm saying because I know many organizations have said to me, because I have been very vocal about it, and some organizations have said to me, but some people do want their picture taken, and that's a different story. That's a completely different story. But I find what happens in our community, we almost make charity fashionable. So at a time when, for example, things are happening in Gaza and bombs are raining down, everybody's posting up about it. A week later, everyone has forgotten about it and we're posting up very random things in our lives. But those people's lives still have to continue, and those people are still living those lives every single day, and they continue living those lives. So when we decide we're posting up things on social media, when you go out and you're giving out, and I know there's so many people in our community, amazing people who are giving out on a regular basis, but when you're going out and you're snapping photos that you think, oh, I'm just saying how nice this is and I feel so good that I did this, alhamdulillah. But what have you done when you've posted that? We know social media takes away absolutely nothing. Once a picture is up there, it's up there. You don't know what that person's course of life is going to be, and you don't know how that picture would come back to haunt them at some point in their lives. Second thing is, why take away the dignity of somebody who is receiving charity? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it possible for you to give out your charity, let's not take away the dignity of the person the person receiving it, because the next time somebody is in need of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may not write your name to be the person to give it to them. Always maintain the dignity. My other worry about it is, we so often think that, oh, let's just put any hamper together. And this is something we've been working with on a regular basis. I know we're discussing it with BMCO because they've already put this into place, and we don't want to duplicate anything. We want to see how we're able to do this ourselves. We take hampers and we think, oh, let's just make hampers and we can just go give it out. And very often in Ramadan, we find a lot of people in our community call us and go, we've got 50 hampers, please distribute. And alhamdulillah, it's a wonderful way to get your family involved. But liaise more with the organizations to see what the needs are. And I find that when you take a hamper, you cannot possibly give out 50 of the same hampers to 50 families and assume every single family is going to need and want everything that's in that hamper. When we talk about giving with dignity, we have to look at, are we giving the dignity to the heads of those households? If we keep going to drop off to people where children are watching their parents just receiving goods all the time, what message are they getting? That, oh, their parent is unable to provide for them? Why aren't we had long discussions about this? Why aren't we looking actively at changing the way we give it? So for example, one thing I'm looking at the moment is saying, why don't we give a family a voucher where they can then choose what works for them in their family? And I think the one mistake we often make is we say, oh, they're zakah eligible, they shouldn't be buying their kids a Coke or chocolate. But why not? Once you've handed over your zakah, it is their business what they are doing with it. You have to ascertain that they are zakah eligible, but we cannot dictate to people what to do or what level they need to be living at for us to say, okay, now you're eligible to get it. So, for example, Mualima, at one of the old age homes that we support, we take care of their rent on a monthly basis. We take care of all their healthcare. We take care of their water and electricity. That way, whatever pension money they receive, it's cash in their pocket, because there's a little bit of dignity in also being able to have your own cash where you don't have to ask your children for something you want to go out and buy. But what we've also done is we've instituted, besides the groceries, we have somebody who goes with fresh fruit and vegetables, and each one gets to choose what they want. So besides the employment of the person who's supplying the fresh fruit and vegetable, it's also the dignity of the elderly recipients being able to choose which fruit and vegetables they want for their home without us having to dictate that. They also get vouchers for meat, where they are able to purchase the meat that they want. And I have to point out that we work in one of the most amazing dynamic communities who are so giving and who are so willing to go that extra mile. So even if you think, oh, it's a difficult concept, it's really not that difficult to be able to put into place, because there are so many entrepreneurs in our community that would be willing to help out. And especially at a time like now, we have seen an increase in people with who have lost their jobs, who have lost stable forms of income, who are looking for other forms of income. And we can give you lots of numbers where you can call them and they'll help you to be able to put this into place. If you know 5 families who are zakah eligible in your community or your area, there's easy ways to be able to help them but maintain their dignity at the same time.
Azhar and I here at the foundation and the media, I always tell him, I say, it's all about collaboration. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to put a beautiful mag wheel, something that's functional, something that's effective. And I always say, I say, copyright that is Mu'alima's term, the mag wheel. Because the mag wheel is important. The wheel was there, and we're not taking no credit for it. So the mag wheel, and that's, I see, that is something that I love, that Caring Women's Forum are very keen on group collaborations, as you've mentioned. So you are empowering a chain of people, like you say, the person that wants to set up an entrepreneur for veggies and that. So you're using him instead of going to a major chain store or multinational and that. You're supporting, and so you're empowering them. So you're making this person a zakat donor who was maybe a couple of months ago he was eligible for zakat. So changing, and I think that's what we need to look at, empowerment projects where we're changing the status of a person through projects like this. So we empower them where maybe a year ago they were a part of your zakat list and they were eligible to zakat. Now they're actually saying, Sister Zaheera Bham, I need to contribute zakat. Please take this, and the circle goes. So we need to change people's status in terms of economic status and be that means. And I love what you're saying. Even those that are eligible for zakat, you're still empowering them in terms of voucher system. And I felt so touched when you say our senior mothers and fathers can, with the fruit, make a choice, because as that adage goes, beggars can't be choosers, but that's how you strip somebody of their dignity, when you don't make them choosers. When you give them a choice, you know what it does to your self-esteem. As an educator, I can tell you, it makes you feel that I'm worth something. The only thing is I'm financially, I feel financially challenged, but I still have my health, which is my wealth. I have my dignity. I'm content now with my lot. So it doesn't mean that if your wealth is not the be all and end all. Allah's given you faculties. There's so much to be thankful. And if we can be an instrument to respect somebody's dignity and show them that money is not wealth, we can do this. That's, alhamdulillah, for me, so empowering. And I'm so, I actually advocate your vision. And I'm so pleased that CWF have taken this on in terms of the work you're doing now.
Jazakallah. I think it's something, we realize it's imperative. If we have to hand over that legacy, like you mentioned, what legacy are we handing over to the next generation to start heading CWF up? They have to now take this and then move forward from it as well. And I think, so many organizations in our community do that. And it's exactly like how you always say, don't reinvent the wheel. There's enough space for collaboration. There is enough space for people who are already there. There's always something more you can add to enhance the work being done. And especially at a time like this where Islamophobia is so rampant, and we have to also show what we are doing within our communities, but also as a form of dawah work. We should be in the forefront of setting the standards of how charity should be done, of how giving back should be done, because this is the legacy of who we are. This is the legacy of what we come from. So I think, and I think, as you mentioned earlier, you touched on, please be, whether you are in a charity organization, whether you're part of a schooling organization or part of a family, look out for the people that are looking for something to do, where you can support those businesses. Find ways to be able to get them to be able to build their income and to build their support network until they're back on their feet again. If we don't take care of each other during these next few months, or at least for the next year ahead, we're going to have a very, very big problem on our hands. So let's make sure we take care of each other and we give dignity to each other on a consistent basis.
Go, one thing that I want to touch about, because like you say, education is my passion, and one of I think the aims and objectives was the bursary scheme that was up and running since inception, and you still continue with the bursary, because again, like you say, this is one way to change somebody's economic status, is through education. And I know you invest in bursaries and you're always there to help. That's why even in terms of with refugee families and that, you focus on, instead of just giving food hampers and that, but the education of the children, because yes, they don't have to be in that same circumstances. This is a way out for their families.
Yes.
Out of the situation. So tell us about the bursary schemes.
So our bursaries are one of our biggest projects that we have in CWF. So initially we were doing it by ourselves. We've since, in the last few years, collaborated with SANZEP and a few other organizations to ensure our reach is much wider. Because what we found was happening is one student would apply at 4 or 5 organizations and get a bit here, a bit here, a bit here, and it would become so difficult for that student.
Sister Zaheera?
Can you hear me now?
I can. You can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So to avoid duplication and to ensure consistent transparency, CWF joined up with SANZEP and with a few other organizations to ensure a wider reach of our and what we have found is exactly that. So many of our bursary students come back and say, I'm now in a position to contribute to this for another student. Or if you ever need community service hours, we had a dentist, someone who qualified as a dentist, who said, if anybody needs assistance, that I can be, my services will be available if they come by a CWF. So those are things we've really thrived on. On our international bursary side, we've made sure we supported and funded young Syrian widows. I mean, these are women who are 21, 22 years old, lost husbands, whose husbands have gone missing, who haven't been able to get back onto their feet again. And what we've done is we said the best way possible is to give them an education. They're still young, they can get back into things, they can be able to figure out how to fend for their families. So that's another project that we do in the refugee camps in Lebanon. Another project that we're currently busy with at the moment is via the UN Refugee Network in Dadaab camp in Kenya. And there we are providing basics like school desks, school books, but we are also providing teacher training so that people in the refugee camps get training so that they are able to continue servicing in those refugee camps. And we are also providing the entrance examination fee for secondary students to be able to enter into the next part of their education. Because primary school education is one part, but 60% of those learners are not able to end up going for secondary education because they can't even afford the entrance fee for that exam. So we are funding that as well, and that's a big project that we're doing currently with one of the companies in the Johannesburg region, but we'll put that out in due time as well.
Ask you the difficult questions because it's one thing to give and to support, but the thing is, for me in this kind of work, and I'm sure you've come to it, the screening is very, very important in terms of who are worthy, deserving recipients, because often you find, at surface level, you're given information, or some people come, or some organizations come in, you find that they misrepresent their circumstances, situations. Even if you do a site visit, things appear that they're worse than what they actually are, or it's a front, putting up a front, because unfortunately and sadly, that is the reality that it's become big business. To beg is big business nowadays. And but then to the detriment of those, so there's a real need and people are struggling with it. But just as much as people are struggling, there are many people that are opportunists and see this as an easy way to get funds instead of working hard and coming up. So in terms of your screening process, what tips can you offer other organizations out there? Because you collaborate a lot, you're 25 years doing this, in terms of a thorough screening process.
So I think, Malima, you and I both know how many hiccups over the years we've seen, how many fraudulent organizations we've seen. And I really urge people that don't for a moment think that, oh, you know what, but it doesn't matter. My intention was correct and it's fine. I gave my money and now I don't need to worry. Actually, you do need to worry.
Just to interrupt you there, because that is the what I'm confronted by. People tell me, but I can give in, and I gave because I seen this and I've discharged it, and it's and then some of us who are in the space get accused of being judgmental, that we don't know people's circumstances, and if it's almost as if we get attacked because we bring certain things to the fore. So how do you deal with this and you overcome this? Because, like I say, your input and the input of CWF is important in this, in terms of understanding, also making our listeners and public aware in terms of where does our responsibility end. The moment I give a person something, or it's my duty to ensure that my money is gone to worthy recipients.
I think people have to understand that you have far more of a responsibility than just saying, I've handed over my cash. Mu'alima, in your years of experience, and I know I've got quite a few members on my team as well, who will walk into a home for a visit. And instinctively, you'll know what you're looking for. You'll know where something doesn't feel right. You know when your gut instinct tells you it's not 100%. And I always say you have to trust those instincts. But really, as people who are listening to the show, your responsibility is not that. Call the organizations. If a reputable organization that has been in the business for a long time says to you, look, things are not 100%, don't put your money there, because all you're doing is you're ensuring that fraudulent organizations are able to thrive. And the problem with that is I've just recently seen another place close down that was collecting money for orphans, because they were housing orphans, but none of those children there were orphans, all had homes to go to. And they said, actually, this is the people who've now taken it over said, this doesn't work. We have to close it up and we have to be ethical. So you have to check. If you don't have the time to check, your NAYA is not enough to say, oh, I've dropped off the money and my NAYA was correct. Whatever happens, happens. That's not enough. If you don't have the time to check, be in touch. There are so many organizations that do this every single day to check it out, to make sure things are legitimate, to make sure things are in place. And if there's one bit of doubt, my advice to you is please step back. Stay away from that, because all you're doing is enhancing fraudulent activity.
Jazakallah for those, let's say, advice and the words of wisdom, because this comes from years of experience in being on the field. So it's not just hearsay, it comes from experience. Like you say, even organizations such as yourself work here now and then, you might give funds upfront only to discover 2 or 3 months later all is not what it appears, and you still get it. So that is why I'm saying now what you advise is sound advice indeed. I would love to chat to you forever, when we meet in all
I
capacities.
know.
We always have so much to chat about. It's been an absolute pleasure, inshallah, and we'd like to chat to you again in the future in terms of there's so much more I wanted to chat to you about the organization as well as the work that you do in terms of inspiring others and that. So, inshallah, looking forward to maybe you can join us in a capacity as a mentor for young students, young learners, even for young individuals as well. So, inshallah, we'd like to hook up with you in that
Inshallah.
capacity of yours as a mentor as well. But Jazakallah so much for giving us your time. I know you're a very, very busy individual. Everybody wants a piece of you. And Jazakallah for the work. I want to also, on behalf of Salam Media here, we want to salute every member of your team, because as you mentioned from the outset, that CWF is as strong as all the volunteers, the dedicated volunteers that so selflessly give their time and effort. So this is you're representing them here, but this is an accolade to each and every member. So please pass on that to all the members. We wish them well and we acknowledge their good work, and may Allah continue to give you good health and strength and all your members so that you can continue the sterling work you do in service of Deen and humanity at large. Jazakallah so much.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair to you and to your entire team for everything that you do, and for acknowledging the efforts of all the organizations around us, and for always voicing what many of us are not able to say. So Jazakallah khair to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. And that was Sister Zaheera Bham, the advisory chair of the Caring Women's Forum. And we're going to go for a break, and then we into our educational insight segment, and we're going to be speaking early childhood development.